Hi, everyone. I'm Angie Ryder Beto, Bethany class of 77, and the current president of the College Alumni Association. And on behalf of the entire Bethany College Alumni Council, I'm super excited to welcome you all to tonight's town hall featuring Dana Bearer, Vice President of Enrollment Management, and Dino Emili, Executive Director of Alumni Engagement and Plan Giving. Tonight, Alumni Council is again hosting this town hall with college leaders in support of our mission to engage and connect alumni with the college and with each other. In order to continue to redefine our role, we are working alongside Bethany leadership to position our beloved alma mater to thrive into the next century. You, Bethany's faithful alumni, are the core of our future and our success. So thank you for taking time to join us for this important conversation this evening. I promise you won't be disappointed because I learned so much during our earlier rehearsal. Before I introduce tonight's moderator, let's go over just a few housekeeping details, as always. To share as much information and address as many of your concerns as possible, tonight's moderator has compiled a list of questions from those already submitted by our alumni. Unfortunately, many of the questions that alums submitted are outside the purview of this evening's panel, but rest assured, they will be forwarded or already have been to President Creedy and the Board of Trustees Chair Ken Beto. We will be having an in-person town hall meeting during homecoming on Saturday, September 30th, and I guarantee you won't want to miss this. So any questions that we don't address tonight, we have sent on or will send on to them. Our goal this evening is to be finished at 8 p.m. to respect our panel and our alumni who are joining us, to respect your time. And as always, as time permits, we'll please submit your questions via the chat function on the bottom of your screen. Hopefully, you've noticed our new format this evening, and I am thrilled to share with you that the live streaming for this event is sponsored and produced by Douglas Chicatano, class of 2000, and principal of TDS Media in Pittsburgh. It is now my pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator, Alumni Council President Jim Porter. And by the way, just as an aside, every time I ask Jim to be a moderator, Tampa is hit with a hurricane. So I'm really grateful that despite the hurricane that's been ongoing, Jim is able to join us tonight. He is a 1986 graduate of Bethany and a 1989 graduate of Emory University School of Law. At Bethany, Jim was a Sigma Nu and an English major, but we won't hold that against him. And he is a partner with Ackerman in Tampa, Florida. His clients include the Hillsborough County School Board, which oversees the 7th largest school district in the country. Jim, welcome, and thanks so very much for agreeing to moderate this evening's town hall.
Good. Thanks, Angie, and welcome everyone. As Angie said, we've been weathering a hurricane today, but everything in Tampa is fine, and we're just praying for the people that were affected by the hurricane. But I'm very excited to be moderating what promises to be a very informative and interesting evening tonight. We have Dana Bearer here, who is Vice President of Enrollment Management, and Dana's been with the college just coming up on 1 year. And also Dino Emili from the class of 78, who after a very successful law career came back to Bethany, which really says a lot. And Dino has the longest title of anybody on the Bethany campus. He's the Executive Director of Alumni Engagement and Plan Giving. And we have a series of questions that we're going to be asking them, and they're going to be responding. But I want to just say at the outset, there are exciting things happening at Bethany. There are positive changes. There's excitement in the air. There was an alumni cleanup last Saturday that engaged the students and alumni. And it's an exciting time to be a Bethanian, and it's an exciting time to be part of the Alumni Association. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dana. And Dana, before we get started with the questions, I believe you want to sort of set the table a little bit and provide some context about what we're going to be discussing. So I'll take it away, Dana, and then we'll get into the questions.
Very good. Thank you so much. And good evening, friends. And I just this is the anniversary. This week is the anniversary of my first year at Bethany. So I feel very blessed and grateful for all of the hospitality and just all the support that I've received in the year that I've been here. As you mentioned, there's been a ton of progress that has been made. I will go into as much detail tonight as I can, knowing that during homecoming we'll have some more specifics for you, but I certainly hope to address the large majority of your questions tonight. So one of the things that I wanted to do before we got into questions was really just kind of give you kind of a climate, a test of the climate in the country right now as far as where colleges and universities stand with enrollment. And the reason I want to do this is kind of let you know how far Bethany has come in a very short time towards success, because there are a lot of schools out there right now that are feeling the impact of COVID, feeling the impact of poor management over the years, and just really struggling for enrollment right now. And we have a very positive story, a success story and a very positive story that we're seeing at Bethany right now. And so I want to talk to you about the impact of 5 trends that we're seeing right now in higher education. Some of you may already be aware of these trends, but I just want to, for the whole group, just kind of set the stage and let you kind of know what, as higher educational professionals, we're all dealing with, not just here at Bethany. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about what we've done to overcome some of these issues. First and foremost, we've heard this in the news, and we know this. If you have children, grandchildren, you know this is a fact, that enrollment continues to decline across our country. Since 2020, 1.23 million undergraduate students have just disappeared from our American colleges and universities. That's a 4% decline nationwide. And so 45% of young adults right now, ages 16 to 24, are not enrolled in any kind of school. So that's an alarming statistic for those of us who built our careers on the backs of 17, 18, 19-year-olds. Asking them to make decisions at this point in time is just really challenging. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons is the perception of the value of a college degree. And a lot of families are questioning the value of a college degree. Degrees do, in fact, continue to drive a strong economy. It helps with the job growth market. We certainly want an educated populace. So degrees do matter and they do count. However, preparing students for college has really plummeted. It used to be very much so the 10th highest priority in family households was to educate their children, send their kids off to college. How many of you were told going to college is not an option? You're going to college. Those were the heydays. Bethany as well appreciated those heydays and realized that every family in America strove to be able to send their kids to college, and that's great. Currently, in this market, there was a recent study put out by Populous, which says that now that is ranking 47th in families' list of priorities. 47th. We went from being really, college being something that we felt like our children must do to now 47%, 47th in terms of ranking and priority of if we're going to send our kids to college. That's alarming. So the public really, we all need to help students understand the value of especially a private liberal arts education in 2023. So that's really a challenge. A third thing is that the higher education business model is broken. I don't know any higher education professional, and there are some on this call, some of whom I've actually worked with in the past who are Bethany alum. And so we all know that the business model is broken. Institutions for too long were relying on rising tuition costs to pay the bills at the institution. A school like Bethany is very tuition driven. We depend on head count to pay the bills, and that is not sustainable. It's not sustainable anywhere. Our neighbors to the south, West Virginia University, they're cutting $40 million from their budget because they're not getting enough students to pay the bills. It's happening on a large scale, and it's also happening on smaller scales, like our neighbors at Alderson Broaddus, who were just forced to close because they couldn't pay the bills. Their electric bill was over $100,000 and they couldn't pay it. So things like that are happening all around us. Even in Little Bethany, West Virginia, we're feeling those effects of the social realities And so the perspective of a family who may, let's say, for example, we've got folks who are, working parents with aging parents. So they're that sandwich generation, like many of us are, raising kids while still helping parents, get by. Um, College education right now doesn't seem to be the largest priority, and colleges depend on those numbers in order to pay. So what's happening now is we've had a big shift in our industry. So at one time, the needs of faculty and staff and the welfare of the college was the priority. We need to get back to the original reason we exist, and that is to serve our students, to provide our students with a quality education at an affordable price, and to be able to educate the students in our region. That is our priority. We lost sight of that somewhere along the way, and all of a sudden now we're faced with a declining populace, and we also have to figure out new business models in order to survive in this industry. And so that's what Bethany is doing. We are strategizing in new ways. We're creating different business model so that we can survive, and so that not just survive, but thrive and do better than our peer institutions. The overall percentage of college and universities employees are looking to quit. That's never a good sign. When you have a revolving door, when you have presidencies up in the C-suite, the chief executive officers, the chief enrollment officers are moving around chasing better opportunities or different opportunities. 75% of staff now report that they're willing to leave a college and look for another job if they're going to allow them to work from home or allow them to have more of a salary increase. So we have to be concerned about those things, because when there's uncertainty among the staff and faculty, there's uncertainty that the student feels that. They feel as though they're not the priority. And so we need to really, put some guardrails up and make sure that that doesn't happen to us here at Bethany. So that's a concern. And finally, they're looking, nationally at the risk preparation for crisis response, things like COVID. What did COVID do to institutions? It crushed a lot of them. The students had to go home and be online. A school like Bethany wasn't quite prepared for that. We weren't prepared to shift our whole modality to an online version of ourselves. And so the ability to respond to these global pandemics, that's just one potential risk. There's so many other things like campus shootings, campus violence. You may have just seen what happened at UNC Chapel Hill. We're on a beautiful afternoon with kids in college, first day of class. A disgruntled student came in and shot and killed, I believe, a professor that he knew. So we have to always avert against these things and manage against these things. So many outside influences are affecting what we do here. And Bethany is not insulated from the rest of the world anymore. There was a time before internet, before telephones, before everybody had a car. Bethany was that beacon on the hill. It was a beautiful place to be, where you were kind of isolated from all the bad things that were happening in the world. That is not the case anymore. Bethany students come from difficult backgrounds in some cases. They come from very well-off backgrounds in some cases. But today, there are so many external influences facing our students, and this is the case at all colleges and universities. And it comes down to how we mitigate those risks and make sure that we manage through those. And I think our leadership currently is very poised to be able to do that well for Bethany. So I'm very, very proud of our team here. And I know that we'll continue to serve the institution well. With that, I will talk a little bit. Nobody really asked about this, but I think I'll answer some questions as well about our infrastructure, the amazing things that we're doing on campus, the beautification projects that we're doing, and things like that. You'll see all of that at homecoming, and I hope again to sit down with each of you at homecoming and talk about these things, because it really excites me. But there's so many cool things happening here at Bethany right now that I just cannot wait to talk to you about. But with that, Jim, if you want to go ahead and ask me some questions, I'll be happy to be as transparent as I can be, and just try to educate everybody about what's going on here.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. That was not only fascinating, I do think it provides a lot of context and helps, it's going to help make the questions that the alumni are interested in hearing about and your answers more relevant because of that. So thank you for that. set up. Let's get started with a question that's been on many of the alum minds. But where does Bethany stand in regards to enrollment on this fall?
Absolutely. I will tell all of the Bethanians on this call right now that you all should be very excited and very proud of Bethany right now. That it's just an amazing thing when people come together and work as a team, and how we can make great things happen. For those of you familiar with higher education, there's a thing called Census Day. That's 2 weeks after classes start, to see how many students actually came and stayed throughout that period. And so the federal government defines Census Day and asks us to report our numbers at that time. We're prepared to do that this Friday, and without stealing the president's thunder, because he's going to make a major announcement about this. And so I can't really reveal the actual numbers, but I can tell you that our enrollment is close to about 30% more than it was last year. Our incoming class. And so overall, the campus has increased probably by 11% too in enrollment. And so we're very thrilled to report that, but stay tuned for some really cool details, because the president is going to be talking to our board president first, which is customary. And then they'll make a press release and talk about our increased enrollment, because quite frankly, it's going to make a big splash here, especially in West Virginia, when most of our peer institutions in the PAC have fallen short 10, 20, 30% in enrollment. We are really going to probably make national news over this, because we did such a great job.
Wow. So that's very exciting. You've created some anticipation, and I learned something. I didn't know what Census Day was, so I think that's very helpful, and we'll look forward to the president's announcement on Friday. So Dana, you've been at Bethany, you're approaching your year anniversary. Can you share some of your strategies for what you're doing to try to attract new students and what you're bringing to the table?
Of course. Sure. One of the most significant things that we did as an institution this year is got a handle on our discount rate. So we created a financial aid strategy to enable more students to have more of their need met through the financial aid process. There's a huge calculation, and financial aid is going to be changing significantly for this next cycle, because the federal government wants to make things simple. In fact, they called it the Simplification Act, which has caused it to be like really confusing. But nonetheless, this year's financial aid strategy worked. We've met 100% of our incoming students' need, and that's based on their FAFSA, their family expected family contribution. And we also restructured our scholarship program, the KLON program, the honors program, the presidential. All of our merit scholarships were offered after. We did not stack, for example, we did not stack our scholarships. So students were not getting refunds this year. We were giving aid up into the level of need that a student had. Bottom line, for those who are not in our business, the bottom line is we made it more affordable without lowering our standards. We made it more affordable for more students to attend Bethany. And that was a very calculated, strategic decision that we made. Prior to this year, we were discounting students in the mid 80 percentile, which meant that we were not getting as much net tuition revenue as we needed. So by switching it up and changing the strategy this year, our net tuition revenues have almost doubled. So we'll be getting twice as much revenue from each student that we've enrolled, which makes it just even that much better, because we needed it. And so we brought our discount rate down about 17 points, which is unheard of in our business right now. A lot of our peer institutions are just slashing their prices or buying students. I think Bethany at one point in time over the past decade has done that, and it put us in a really difficult position financially. But the way we changed our strategy this year, I think everyone will be very pleased. And again, I'd be happy to talk details with you individually when you're here. But it was a good thing. We didn't know exactly what the outcome would be, but it certainly it helped us to increase our incoming class size, and it allowed us to provide 100% of financial aid based on a student's need. So I was really proud of that fact. Some of the other things that we're doing, we're adding some new programs, as some of you may have heard. We're creating, because we have more males than female students at Bethany, and it's really kind of lopsided. There's probably about 65, 67% male students at our school. Our athletics department decided to add 2 new female sports, which is going to be really exciting. Acro and tumbling is a really popular female sport. Um, and we will be able to compete not just regionally, but nationally with that sport. And we also, believe it or not, we've added women's wrestling. So we think that by doing that, we'll be able to increase our female population probably about by 50 or 60 students by next year. But the buzz is already starting, and some of our neighboring schools over at West Liberty has a very strong acro and tumbling program. So we felt like that was a good move in order to increase the female enrollment here. Diversifying some of the programs, our whole array of programs, quite frankly, has gotten a little stale. And we are really hoping to look at more partnerships. We've developed partnerships with schools like West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine, as well as Northeast Ohio School of Osteopathic Medicine. We're strengthening our relationships with Duquesne University and the pharmacy school there and the law school, Appalachian School of Law, also the Reed School of Communication from West Virginia University. So we feel like we're starting to build these connections and these relationships with these other institutions that will help our students thrive. And so it's really a good selling point. Students came this year into a new program, criminal justice. We picked up 14 or 15 new students this year just by adding a really good program that students said they wanted. So we're remaining true to our liberal arts core and our background and our history, but we're also looking at new programs to kind of diversify the array of programs that we have to offer. So that's helped a lot. And quite frankly, too, we've started to regain our backyard a little bit. For a few years, we lost sight of that. And we were folks here were recruiting in Florida and Georgia and California and Maine, and not that there's anything wrong with students from those areas. We love the geographic diversity, but you can't have a whole freshman class with kids who have no connection to this area. All of you went here. You know that this area is very special, very unique, but it's not for everyone. And we have to realize that not every student who comes here will stay here. We've been fortunate most recently to retain more students than typical, but on the other hand, we still want to make sure that we look at the backyard as our strongest students, the best fit students who will want to stay here and graduate from Bethany. So those are just a couple of things that we've looked at this over the course of this year, and I think we've been pretty successful in that strategy. It was part of the 3-year strategic plan that the board had approved. We've tweaked it a little bit. We've added some goals and some effort toward that. But the one thing that really I'm proud of as well is that my team here in the enrollment department has stuck around. They didn't leave when I arrived, and I was really happy about that because consistency is really the important component when it comes to a strong recruitment program. So.
Great. So from a recruitment standpoint, can you talk a little bit about maybe what you would call low-hanging fruit and what you're doing about that? And as part of that answer, maybe talk a little bit about regional diversity. And I think you have some interesting statistics about where most of the Bethany kids are coming from these days. And I think that's something the alumni would be interested in.
Yep, for sure. So I think that a school's footprint is usually, it's pretty local for the most part. Schools that I've been to before, the smaller private schools have a local footprint. The local universities have a more vast footprint. I'm still trying to figure out what that means for Bethany. I've met students from all over the world here at Bethany. I've met students from right across the river, over in Steubenville. We had a strategy this year, as I said, to kind of take back the backyard, while still encouraging the geographic diversity, the ethnic diversity, the racial diversity. We want to make sure that we are a well-rounded institution because that's part of our mission. That's what we say we do. And so, primarily our students are coming from, drum roll, we get most of our students from Ohio, believe it or not. Second to Ohio would be West Virginia. Third would be Pennsylvania. No surprises there. I sometimes believe, I'm from Pennsylvania originally, and I feel like the panhandle of West Virginia is very much Ohio and very much Pennsylvania. So that's primarily where our students are coming from. We expanded a little bit this year into Maryland. We've picked up a few kids from Maryland, and Northern Virginia is where we've gotten quite a few students this year. So those are the primary states that we're focusing on. We find that, especially for our student athletes, their parents can come to watch them play and compete. Their grandparents can come in and participate in different events on campus. If they're coming to watch a theater production or an athletic event, or if there's some type of ceremony, we feel like that's important for people in Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia to be able to come and see their students thrive. And so that's been my focus, is try to regain that backyard a little bit. We know as well that those students retain better. There are more connections to the area. They're not as shocked when, the roads are windy and there's lots of hills, and it doesn't scare them. Because sometimes we know that if a student comes from Florida, for example, they just can't take it. It's so different. They're just not used to it. And so they leave. We want to make sure that we mitigate against that. I do not want students to come here sight unseen and then leave. It's not something that I'm comfortable with. So we're making a huge effort to look at our kind of regional backyard. And, part of that is having the correct programs, the right programs that students really, really want.
Great. Thank you. I think that's very interesting. The Ohio piece is a bit of a surprise, so I think that's interesting. Yeah. So pivoting a little bit, one of the things that I think is common among Bethany alumni is pride in our majors. And despite Angie's crack about my being an English major, it was a wonderful major and prepared me for law school and prepared me for life with some wonderful professors that we had. So can you talk a little bit about which majors are attracting students now? What are the most popular majors?
Sure. I will say, sadly, English does not make the top 5, but I totally appreciate that. Some of my best friends are English majors. So this may surprise you folks that 14% of our incoming class is undecided. They have no specific major in mind. Some parents don't like that. It's a $51,000 experiment for some of these parents. They want their kids to come out as an accountant or, an English professor or something like that. When I see an undecided student, I get excited because that means that their mind is open to a lot of different things. And at a school like Bethany, liberal arts education means you have the opportunity to study all areas. And so I get excited about that. 14% of our students are undecided. 12% are biology majors or interested in sciences in some way, which again excites me because we have all these medical school partnerships. I failed to mention, we just signed an agreement with a school in Grenada. It was a Bethany alum, actually, I think, who started the school, called St. George's. It's a phenomenal medical school, and kids from all over the world go there. And we now have a partnership with them. So if a student comes here in biology, chemistry, does really, really well, they'll have an automatic admission to St. George's. Same with Neomed or West Virginia School of Medicine. We have students now who are assigned to be medical students at VSOM for right after they graduate. They'll get automatic admittance there if they continue to do well. So thrilled about that. And I'm not surprised, and you'll probably see the biology major number even go higher because of those partnerships. We're using as a huge selling point when we're recruiting students. The sports management program comes in third with another 12.5% of our students interested in sports management. Shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because of how heavily athletic we are here. A lot of those folks want to be into the sports management area. Management itself, business management, 7.5% of our students, followed by computer science, psychology, and communication. Those are the top programs currently here. And criminal justice is actually catching a real wave here too. Students very interested in that. We have a phenomenal professor who also has connections to the local, he's a counselor as well at the local prison system. So he's got some great internships lined up for our students. So a lot of great things happening with our academic programs. Each of our academic programs now has an internship associated with it, which in the past it was some did, some didn't. And now all of our programs. If a student's interested in an internship, either paid or non-paid for experience, they can have one. And we've been very diligent about getting these internships set up, which I think is a very important move in the right direction for us.
Great. So when I was at Bethany, the theater program was very strong. We have a lot of very engaged theater alum. I think Mark Helm is hopefully on the call. He was one of the leading actors of my year. And some alumni believe that that's still really a big attractor. And I'd like to know if you have found that to be true, or sort of give us an update on the theater situation at Bethany.
Yes, of course. Well, so for those of you who aren't aware, we no longer have a theater major per se on the books. We do have a theater minor. The theater was once a very, very popular extracurricular activity as well as a co-curricular activity. I imagine in your time it was very, very good. I've attended, in the year that I've been here, I've attended almost every production that we've had, and I personally enjoy it very much. However, there's not as much interest as one might think, because without a major, we don't attract new students necessarily just for theater. We probably have about 8 students right now interested in the theater minor, which doesn't sound like a lot, but during production time, we have the benefit of having local residents perform with us, some who are alumni, some who are not. But that helps us to put on a play, for example, gives us the numbers that we need for that. We incentivized students this year with a $1,000 award if they were interested in participating in the theater, hoping that that would raise the number of students interested. It brought in 8 students who were interested. So it's not a huge program. There's only an adjunct faculty member there right now. So it's not gaining a lot of traction at this point, although those who do participate probably very much so find it to be the reason that they stay at Bethany. So
Great.
Hopefully that
That's
answers
helpful.
your question.
No,
Okay.
it's very interesting, and I thank you. I know several alumni were interested in that. So you mentioned earlier, Alderson Broadhouse. Could you sort of give the group sort of a brief summary of what happened to that school and what Bethany has done in response to that?
Sure. Alderson Broadus is a private school a couple of hours south of here. It's been around a long, long time, as we have been. They were most well known for their physician assistant program. But through the years, they've really struggled to diversify their portfolio of programs. They are a Division II athletic program, so they did get enough students to participate in sports, but they weren't getting a real diverse group of student there. So they just fell on hard times. I mean, the HLC, the accreditors came after them pretty hard, and they weren't able to fulfill those obligations. So this past summer, they actually lost their accreditation and were told that they had to cease to exist. So they closed. So there were 700 or 800 students, I think it was, that had nowhere to go. And so we were very, very proactive. Once we found out that they were in fact closing, we did outreach to their students, we did outreach to their coaches, we did outreach to their provost, and our president had a conversation with their president just to see if there's anything we could do for them. Now, again, they're 2 hours south of us, and they're a Division II athletic program. And in their neighborhood, they have West Virginia Wesleyan, Davis and Elkins College, West Virginia University. So there were a lot of options right there in their backyard. West Virginia Wesleyan actually became their custodian of their academic records. So most of the students went there. I think they picked up a couple hundred students from Alderson Broadus. We did what we could immediately. We reached out. We received 12 applications, which I thought was about what we would receive, and 5 of those students actually enrolled here. We made their transfer very seamless. We accepted their credits. We guaranteed them housing. We provided them with a financial aid package within 12 hours, really, of applying. So we really accelerated the process and did everything we can to roll out the red carpet for these students. And if you've ever been part of an institution that has closed or had the fear of closing, it really does damage a student's perception of a school. We had seniors who were not able to graduate from AB. Juniors, sophomore, the freshmen not so much because they just picked another school and went. But I really felt terrible for the seniors and the juniors who had very little time to make other arrangements. So the 5 that we have, they're amazing students. They're great kids. I'm really happy that we could do something for them. So I think we checked all the boxes. We did a good thing. We benefited a little bit, and we also, we proved to ourselves that we could at a very late moment's notice get things done. So I was really proud of our team for being able to do that.
Great. Dana, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to move over to Dino so he doesn't get a complex. I think we could talk all night. You have provided so much interesting information, and I mean, I personally feel like I've learned a lot. But we had a question from the chat from an alumni, so I'm going to just read it. It says, in more recent years, more students seem to go home on the weekends. What kind of activities are being thought of to incentivize students to stay on campus?
That's a great question. And I will tell you, just this past weekend, now it's not my thing, but we had a huge concert on campus. We had a performer come in, and apparently very well known, Waka Flocka. Who knew? Just an amazing performer, really connected with our students. And we probably had 300 people over it. It rained. Of course it rained. We wanted to have it up on the quad, but we ended up having it in the gymnasium. But over 300 of our students showed up for that. We have a lot of things through student activities now. We realized it was a problem, and now they're addressing it. The Greek life on campus, I feel like, is being re-energized. We have created, through the support of the Alumni Association, we made Boomers really a cool place to be again. So kids are hanging out there on the weekends. I just have really good relationships too with the parents of this incoming class. And I said to them, you can bring a car if you want, but I would highly suggest not bringing a car. Because that temptation is there to jump in the car and leave the mountain and go over to your friend's college down the road, or just so some of the parents took heed and they didn't have their kids bring cars their first semester. So that's one thing. We've made campus more enjoyable, to be honest with you. And I was going to talk, sorry, Dino, I know I'm hogging this call, but I just have to say how proud I am of how we've made some tremendous improvements. Our deferred maintenance, as you all know, is just atrocious. When I visited here for my interview, there were trees growing out of the water, the water drains in the roof on Old Main. That was atrocious. We have put a huge investment into making this place a place where students want to be, want to stay, want to spend time. I heard kids talking in the cafeteria today about starting their ultimate Frisbee tournament this weekend. So that's awesome. I think it starts with having a place where kids want to be. We spent $1 million renovating Harlan Hall. It's beautiful. When you get here, make sure you put that on your list of things to do. Take a tour through Harlan. It's beautiful. Phillips is being renovated with our East Sports Lounge. Every piece of this campus has been touched by something really positive. The science labs look great. Boomers is fantastic, between the pool table, the ping pong table, the movie theater. We're bringing things to campus for students to get excited about and for students to want to stay. So I hope we're doing our job. I feel like I put 3 kids through college myself. Would all of them have come here and stayed? Probably not. But I at least have one kid who I know, one of my sons, would have just embraced this place and loved it like all of you do. I just know that we're starting something again that's very special here. So I hope that answers the
Dana,
question.
thank you. You have provided so much helpful and interesting information. Before we move over to Dino, do you have any closing comments?
Just thank you and continue to support us and continue to stay positive about our growth and our success. Sometimes I think, it's easy to point out the things that aren't perfect. Looking back on your careers here, you felt things were perfect, but they probably weren't perfect. And so, give us some grace as we're trying to kind of navigate this new world order in college admissions and trying to figure out what 17, 18-year-olds really want. Hopefully, we're going to be able to continue to provide them the things that they want and need. And hopefully, we'll continue to have your support for the things that we do want to accomplish.
Thank you very much. Okay, and let's move over to Dino. So Dino, after a very successful law career, came back to Bethany, which I think is just a dream, and I think it says a lot about his dedication to the alma mater and what he brings to the table. So we're very excited. Dino, let's just get kicked off right away and talk about probably something that's on everyone's mind, and it's coming up very soon, is homecoming. So I was not able to join homecoming last year because, as Angie said, I was weathering another hurricane. But from all accounts, it was one of the best ones ever. So how are you going to top yourself this year? And can you kind of provide some details about what alumni can expect if they get back on campus?
Sure, Jim, and thanks everyone for joining us. The formula for homecoming this year is simple. We're going to keep the best of everything that worked last year, and then we're going to add more things that we're going to try out. We weren't afraid to try some new things last year, and they seem to work out great. Probably the number one difference, or the number one thing I want to point out, is the Friday night dinner. Traditionally, it's been the Alumni Awards dinner, and it was populated by the friends and family members of the award winners. And others felt like it wasn't something that they were welcomed at, which wasn't true, but it was a formal event. Suit and tie, coat and tie, whatever, fancy dress, fine china, fine crystal. That's out the window because we're trying to stick to our theme for homecoming this year, which hopefully you've seen on the website or in the emails, which is Country Roads Taking Me Home. We want to remind everybody just how much Bethany is our home. And so the dinner Friday night, open to all. It's going to be casual. There's going to be music and entertainment. There will be an alumni award component, but it's going to be fun. And I can't emphasize enough that it is open to everyone. And matter of fact, it's the only dinner option for Friday night. So for those of you who come back for Friday's events, the golf outing, the 1933 Society reception, the reunion class event on Richardson Lawn, stick around for dinner Friday night. I think it'll be a very enjoyable experience. And to me, the key with homecoming is giving the alumni the opportunity to get back to campus, or the reason to get back to campus. I've been blessed. From the time I left Bethany, I've never lived more than an hour away, but I realize that's not the experience everyone has. So please, if you haven't already made your plans, make your plans. Come back and get re-engaged. Revisit the physical plant. Buildings like Commencement Hall, where we're having the Friday night dinner and the Saturday morning Greek life breakfast. Walk through the trees again. Look at the streets. The residences that are on campus, including, as was just mentioned, the newly reopened Harlan Hall. These are all the tangible things that make Bethany special. There are many intangibles. The learning environment. We have newly remodeled classrooms, plus this year we're going to dedicate a new lab in the bio department in the name of Forrest Kirkpatrick, and a new lab in the psych department in John Hall's name. John Hall, for those of you who don't know, and I can't imagine that there are any of you who don't know, was a psych professor that I had in my sophomore year here back in the mid to late 70s. And he was still teaching here last year when I returned. So honor him, and stop into the Weimer Theater for the Grimes lecture and the town hall that was mentioned earlier. And then finally, get back here and relight the emotional fires. Attend Sunday service at the Bethany Memorial Church. Visit your old fraternity and sorority houses. Cheer the sports teams. We have intercollegiate sports and alumni games that weekend. So these are things that you can only experience if you're on campus. And these are the things that impacted us during our most formative years, from when the period of time where we went from essentially being children to being adults. That's what makes being a Bethany alum so special, Jim.
Dina, could you also talk on a practical level? I think you're doing registration a little bit differently this year. Maybe touch on
Yes.
that.
Yes, we're going to have registration appropriately enough in the Erickson Alumni Center, which is where my department's offices are, and where our team feels most comfortable, and I think where you will feel more comfortable as an alum than over at Moreland Hall or whatever. Obviously, it's weatherproof. We're indoors. We have a huge council room in the Alumni Center. We'll be able to handle registration much more smoothly, much drier if that happens. And I just think it's a good chance for alums to get to know this building, because in my opinion, it's one of the nicest buildings on campus. I'm very lucky to have my office here, and we have sleeping rooms here that we rent out to alums who are traveling through Bethany. And I just think it's a good chance for the alums to see this building.
Great. So just a reminder, we hope to see everyone on this call at homecoming, and we encourage you to register. Please go to the website and register, especially for the Friday night dinner, which we definitely need a head count on that. So Dina, what other strategies is your office working on, and how can alumni help them become more engaged?
That's a good question, and there are a couple components to that. In terms of becoming more engaged, when I saw the word engagement in my title, I realized fairly quickly that it's a two-way street. It's my job to reach out and engage with the alums, but it's also incumbent upon the alumni to reach out to Bethany. And so I'll talk about a couple of things. If you're nearby, come to Bethany for the events that we have here, like Founders Day or some of the other annual traditions, baccalaureate, those types of things. And then we have things like Women in Leadership, which is one of our finest events and would warrant you to travel from California or Washington or wherever, because we have many alums who do that, and it's very much worth their while for that weekend. Second thing you can do is participate in the alumni events when they do come to your area. We hold about a half dozen, maybe 8 events each year that are the big events where President Caridi comes to speak. We usually have a couple of representatives from our staff, hold them in a nice country club, a real nice evening. But we also do happy hours and more casual get-togethers. We had a fantastic one in New York City at the end of March where we had 30-some people. We're doing them on a rotation basis in Wheeling and Weirton and Washington, PA. And we've had over 30 people at each of the last 2 of those that we've done. So look for those and get to them and meet your fellow Bethanians again. Now, as far as how you can help out, here's a couple of things. One, we offer scholarships to new students who are recommended by alumni. So by recommending a student, they get $1,000 a year for the 4 years that they stay here. Tell us about college fairs in your area. A lot of folks in Dana's world think that those are somewhat passé, that students don't pick schools that way, but I think they do. And we work with Dana's office to man the desks, if you will, at these college fairs. And the several that I've done, I've had alumni accompany me at the table, alumni from the areas where the college fairs are taking place. If you are somewhat local, travel to sporting events to cheer on the Bison athletic teams. A women's soccer game in 2 nights at the Riverhounds Stadium in Pittsburgh, the professional soccer team. So our women are going to be playing there Friday, and we're going to have a tailgate with that. Join the Alumni Association. We're really trying to roll this out in a big way this year at homecoming. Angie will probably talk a little bit about that. Participate in the Bison program. Bison being an acronym for Bethanians in Support of New Students. We've got manuals to tell you how to do that, but Basically, it's just being an ambassador in your area. And then maybe the last thing I'll talk about, because I've been tipped off that this is pertinent to the next question. We're developing a program to work with local alums in areas all over the country where those alums volunteer to be sort of area leaders, so that you maybe host a small group of Bethanians at your home, or you arrange for an evening at a local restaurant or club. We'll provide you with the information on the alums in your area, and we'll help you to organize the event. But it's really incumbent upon the alumni who raise their hand to pull it off. And I think that's important. And Jim, I believe the next question maybe more directly touches upon that.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, it's more about communication. I think there's a perception among some alumni that the outreach feels somewhat sporadic, and that maybe it's limited to a venue or a platform like LinkedIn. So maybe talk a little bit about some of the other ways that you, as in your office, reach out to alumni and to get people more engaged.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I know it's one of the ones that I saw from one of our alums. Fact of the matter is, we have multiple ways that we reach out to people, and LinkedIn is one of the, well, it's not in the top 3 or 4, that's for sure. So if the only way you're hearing about us is in LinkedIn, then listen now. We do have our own type of private Bethany only LinkedIn network called Alumni Fire, where we encourage alumni to sign up. It offers a platform where alums can interact with each other to talk about job availabilities, internships, mentorships, building a resume. And it also has a news page where you can get the latest from the college. We do send multiple emails to alumni every month. Letters from the president on a monthly basis, notice of events on campus, and obviously announcements about events that are happening around the country. The simplest way to stay in touch is to visit the Bethany website. All of the news that's fit to print, as they say, is available there. It gives you in a brief recap everything that's happened, new faculty members, new coaches, performances at the theater that just happened, along with everything that's on the calendar going forward. So if you do nothing else, go to Bethany WV and visit the website. There are multiple Facebook pages. Not only the college Facebook page, but the athletic department has one. There are independently operated Facebook pages like Bethanians of a certain age, the classes of a number of years, 73, 92, they have their own Facebook pages. I will admit, when your footprint is as concentrated as Dana shared with us, as ours is, we can't get out everywhere. So if you live in Little Rock, Arkansas, or Castle Rock, Colorado, we're not going to be visiting you anytime soon. And that's why, as I said in answer to the last question, it's important for us to build this area leader program. And anyone who lives in an area where you don't feel like you're in the mix as far as Bethany goes and Bethany events, reach out to me and we'll talk about installing you as an area leader.
Great. Thanks, Dina. That's incredibly helpful. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap up this portion with talking a little bit about your title. As I mentioned, you seem to have the longest title of anyone at Bethany as Executive Director of Alumni Engagement and Plan Giving. Can you talk about what these new responsibilities mean for your office and for alumni?
Sure. Well, in the first 18 months here, when I was focused just on alumni engagement, I probably talked to over 2,000. So, I made it my goal to talk to everybody. Now I'm focused on a more targeted approach where I'm trying people to create a legacy of sort for Bethany, and that to help us will planning programs, because those of us who went to school know how important some individuals that were here would include them as an Order of the Bronze Bison member, to make a lasting legacy for Bethany College.
Great. Well, that wraps up our question period. I'd like to again thank Dana and Dino for making time to attend this town hall meeting. I think the information that they gave us in response to the questions and also just some of the comments they made were very illuminating and I think very helpful. Hopefully that the alumni listening tonight found some benefit in this. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Angie to wrap us up. But I will say, as I said at the beginning, there's an excitement in the air at Bethany, and it's a really exciting time to be both a Bethanian and to be part of the alumni. So I would encourage you to join the Alumni Association, come to homecoming, remember to register, and stay in touch. So thank you, and back to you, Angie.
Thanks, Jim. And wow, I feel like I've learned so much this evening, and I hope all of you feel the same way. And I am thrilled and enthusiastic about Bethany's future. Thanks again, Dana and Dino, for answering these tough questions. I know we really put you on the hot seat, and for sharing this vitally important and super exciting information tonight. I hope that for most of you, if not all of you, your questions were answered, and I hope that you too are filled with a renewed sense of commitment to the future success of Bethany College. And as all good things must come to an end, sorry to say, I want to close with a couple of quick reminders. Dino mentioned the Alumni Fire platform. So please join our Alumni Association, become part of what we're doing. We just need your information. By doing so, you sign up for Alumni Fire, and by doing so, you will stay informed and connected. Get all the information that you would like to receive from the college in the manner that you would like to receive it. So to find out information about Alumni Fire, you can see the link at the bottom of your screen. Also want to encourage you to provide us with feedback. The Alumni Council and the Alumni Relations Office welcomes your feedback about this town hall and anything else that's on your mind, for that matter, that's relevant, let's put it that way. We also appreciate suggestions for future town halls, and to provide feedback, the link is at the bottom of your screen as well. And as we end, I just wanted to share a quick story. Almost every week, Dino and I talk so that we can stay in touch and we can be supportive of the Alumni Relations Office's efforts. And so I ask Siri every week when I'm ready to make my phone call, hey Siri, please call Dino. And so Siri still calls him Dino Emily. So every time I'm announcing Dino's name, I have to think 3 times about, is it Emily or Emily, or what am I saying here? So Dino, sorry if I butchered your name. I hope I did not. It's all Siri's fault. But anyway, lastly, we look forward to seeing you at Homecoming 2023, Country Roads Taking Me Home. We will be rolling out the green carpet for you, and Alumni Council has been working alongside Dino and his office to make Homecoming 2023 the place to be. And you won't want to miss the live town hall with Bethany President Dr. Caridi and Board of Trustees Chair Ken Beto. We are looking forward to hearing from our Grimes lecturer as well, Bethany graduate and filmmaker Julia Hoffman. So see you on campus September 29th through October 1st, because country roads do take us home to Bethany. And thank you. Finally, again, TDS Media, you're getting us to be much more professional. Thanks again, and have a great evening, everyone. Good night.